Breece Hall officially franchise tagged, non-exclusive tag, which means that teams can negotiate with him. And then the Jets will have the right to refuse, sign him to a deal, or let him go to that team that wines and dines him and gives him a new contract. And then said team would surrender 2 first-rounders. So that's not going to happen. So Breece Hall with the non-exclusive tag, not going to be signed to a new deal by another team, and then the first-rounders heading the direction of the Jets. That's not happening. But he could still technically be traded on the tag. People need to understand that. He could be traded on the tag, sign a new deal with this new team, but it doesn't feel like the Jets want to go in that direction. It feels like the Jets want to sign him to a long-term deal. We'll break it all down and more. But a lot of people saying, oh, this is done, too bad. You don't know. He could still get traded. The Fantasy Football Show begins right now.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios. It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live! Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
So again, this still has a lot of directions it can go in. A lot of people think this is all completely dead in its tracks. He can't go anywhere. He can. I'll read this to you. This is actually from ESPN. The New York Jets dusted off their franchise tag, placing it on running back Breece Hall ahead of Tuesday's 4 p.m. Eastern deadline, sources tell ESPN Adam Schefter. Hall's tag is the non-exclusive tag, the $14.2 million, meaning he can negotiate with other teams and sign an offer sheet. The Jets have right of first refusal and will receive 2 first-round draft picks in compensation if they decline to match the offer. And again, you're not going to be the Jets wanted a 3rd rounder, and the Chiefs during the season last year before the deadline wouldn't even give that. So there's no way that this is going to be one of those situations. So he's not going to sign an offer sheet. But there's still a chance that if the two sides don't negotiate the proper deal, which seems to be the Jets' their intention is to sign him to a long-term deal. If they can't come to terms, there's a chance that there's a riff. And then when there's a riff and then there's not a respect of, giving him enough money, then potentially a trade could go down. But the problem with that scenario is that if the riff doesn't occur early, if the negotiations don't go south really fast, the teams that are good landing spots, a la the Kansas City Chiefs, a la the New Orleans Saints, the Washington Commanders is another team, the Vikings is another. These are the 4 real hardcore landing spots, right? Saints number 1, KC 2, Washington 3, and the Vikings would be 4. Those are the best landing spots in football. Titans are kind of interesting too. You could almost put the Titans here at right here. I'll put this right here. The Niners probably, I'll remove them. It's just going to be interesting to decide to move CMC more into a wide receiver role and they start running the ball more. So there's some intrigue there. But the Jets are most likely not going to be a team that's in play for a running back unless they get rid of Breece Hall in a trade, and we'll get to that again in a second. But the Saints, the Chiefs, the Washington Commanders, and the Vikings are the best landing spots. So if this thing does go awry and the long-term deal can't get worked out, then what happens is they potentially, talk to teams about making a trade. Problem is the NFL draft's going to take care of Jeremiah Love going to either KC, New Orleans, or to the Washington Commanders. That's almost a lock. Like Jeremiah Love will be, unless he's a Titan or a Cardinal, which could happen because, the Cardinals are being rumored to potentially have an interest in Love at this number 3 pick. So Love could go to the Cardinals at 3, could go to the Titans at 4. If not, I don't think the Giants are going to go in this direction, although the Giants are talking crazy about wanting a running back very badly. Washington would be the first crack at it. It's these 3 picks in a row. Washington, New Orleans, KC. So going back to this board over here, if we end up having one of these teams get Jeremiah Love, the other one brings in, either another rookie, or they bring in Rico Dowdle, or Kenneth Walker or ETN ends up going to KC or Washington, which could happen. But then that That may open up Seattle to be another spot, but I don't think they go big because they have Charbonnet who's coming back from an ACL tear, and they probably fill the spot with Rico Dowdle or a Pacheco or something. But these spots, at least 2 of them, if not 3 of them, will be filled via the NFL draft or free agency. I mean, essentially, if let's say these 2 teams, Washington and Minnesota, miss out on Love and Walker and ETN, it's very possible they just have a Jonah Coleman or an Emmett Johnson, and then maybe Breece Hall becomes an attractive piece to that team later. But the problem is, as I'm saying, all of these teams are going to solve their running back problems probably before this could ever go into a weird direction where Breece Hall wants to be traded. They're not giving him the contract he wants. But the other thing you got to think about here is running backs are so cheap in the grand scheme of things, big picture wise. They don't cost a lot. This is not a big deal to the New York Jets to pay what they're franchise tagging him times 2 or a little less than 2 on his guarantee. So this is $14 million. The most likely kind of contract he's going to get will be something along the lines of maybe $12 to $13 million per year, even lesser than the franchise tag potentially, and times 2 would be the most he would get in guarantees. My guess is it'd be about 18 mil guaranteed. So it would be something like this. It'd be 12 mil a year times 3, roughly times 3. And then the guarantee would be between 18 and maybe $20 million. Something like that, regardless of whether we're off a little bit. That is not that crazy of a deal for a team, and running backs are so cheap. I kind of don't feel like this is going to go awry. I think the most likely scenario at this point is Breece Hall will sign a 3-year deal with the New York Jets, get paid between $11 and $13 million per year, between $15 and $20 million guaranteed. Not a huge commitment. The fact that the team's willing to pay him $14 million this year alone on the tag makes me feel like they're willing to pay him 12 to 13, 12 to 14 per year on only guaranteeing him little less than 2 years of that whole contract. It's probably not going to be a problem. I doubt they run into a roadblock where Breece Hall's like, I'm not doing this. Your contract offer sucks. Trade me. We're not trading you. We franchise tagged you because we want to sign you. And then he says no, and they say no, and they say no, and it goes back and forth. It gets ugly, and then they go, fine. What teams? Let's start answering the phone. What teams? New York Jets. Yeah. What's your best offer? Oh, okay. That's not going to happen, most likely. So we got to accept the fact that he is probably a New York Jet. It's not locked in, but he's probably a New York Jet. And like I've said from the beginning of the offseason, if for any reason, and we've been buying Breece Hall left and right, here's round 1, here's round 2, here's round 3, Breece Hall is going in this round 3 territory, which completely accounts for him being a New York Jet. And he has earned that value already, in my mind. Like, you've drafted him there in Underdog, promo code Smitty. If anybody wants to draft with us tonight, Underdog, promo code Smitty. Link is in the description of the video. Code Smitty gets it done as well. If you've already drafted Breece Hall in round 3, expecting him to go to the Chiefs, you didn't waste your money. I'd still draft him in 3. I'll still draft him in 3 like clockwork. But we were really hoping that we would get this like bottom of round 1, 2 climb into that territory. The moment a trade was announced, he goes to the Chiefs or the Saints, boom, Breece Hall is getting drafted at 1.12 to 2.4. And so that would have been a huge home run in the best ball world for us because we've been scooping up Hall value. Now, Hall still in New York has the ability to climb into the second round, whether it's here or the top of round 2. It's still certainly possible his value could be that good. But, you know, you can only be as good consistency-wise on the team, you know, based on the offense you're on. You always want to draft players on good teams. The Jets, probably not a good team. So that does become a factor, and why he probably even, you know, I'm going to tell you this because I'm a big Breece Hall connoisseur this year. I'm going to tell you that you can't expect this. You know, we weren't expecting it. We weren't drafting first round value, but Hall and KC would have vaulted there for everybody ADP wise, and we would have cleaned up all offseason. We would have been doing standing ovation after standing ovation after standing ovation. Doesn't mean we aren't going to be excited. Doesn't mean we aren't getting more bang for our buck here than we anticipate, you know, off the cuff here. We're certainly looking at second round return, maybe not bottom of round 1 return. It's possible he plays like this in New York, but he's more likely going to play in the second round territory. Still a value, still costing you a third drafted player value, a third round pick, but still totally capable in New York of being a second round pick. Again, he could get traded. He could. The key word is could. Not saying he will. He could get traded. People need to understand that. People need to get it. Now, here's the Jotes asks a great question. Smitty, what are your thoughts on Breece falling to the 4th round? This is what we haven't got to yet, but this is where it gets interesting. If this news tanks his value into round 4, we now have a similar effect of if he's going to play like let's say Breece Hall plays, he's no longer a first round consideration. Let's just let that go. That's fairy tale world, right? So let's just exit out. Breece Hall has the capability of playing like let's say bottom of second round value. You were getting him here. That's still a good deal. Now what Jotes is asking is, does he fall? I think he does. So Breece Hall goes from 3 to let's say 4.4 right here. The difference between getting drafted here and finishing here has a similar effect of drafting him here and him climbing here. So at the end of the day, I always tell you guys, exit the room, close the door, take a deep breath, walk back in and assess the situation as it is in that moment. Don't try and carry over what you were looking at, how you were judging the situation, what your expectations were. It's like when people say things like, a rookie gets drafted onto a team that already has a starting running back and it feels like they're raining on the parade, right? But if you really just assess it, close the door, leave the room, take a deep breath, come back in and say, how is the value now? With everybody freaking out about the rookie running back getting drafted on the roster, the player's now cheaper that I like, the starter. Now is it a better value? At the end of the day, there's still a world where Breece Hall in round number 4, because of the freak out effect of him staying in New York, is better value because he can return second round value than Breece Hall in 3 going at the bottom of 1 or top of 2. What would I rather have? Probably Breece Hall at the cost of a 4th drafted player. If we still got to pay third round value a month from now, I'll be kind of shocked if he's in New York, if he doesn't get traded. Again, he could still technically get traded. He's not going to get signed to an offer sheet because no one's paying 2 first rounders to acquire Breece Hall. They could have traded for him for a 3rd rounder last year. That's not going to happen. But he still could get traded. Not likely, but still could get traded. It looks like we might have some Breece Hall or Kenneth Walker news. So we're going to have to end this live stream and come right back on that news. So let me just pull up, see if that news is breaking right now. So the franchise tag now officially in on Kenneth Walker. Won't be tagged. We'll be back on the Kenneth Walker news. See you in about 5 minutes.